The U.S. Senate has begun its consideration of the military funding bill that could lead to massive investments in the Ellsworth Air Force Base. Senate Majority Leader John Thune took to the Senate floor to show his support for the bill and included mention of the South Dakota investments wrapped up in it.
It strengthens the Air Force fleet, including authorizing funding for new fighter jets and the delivery of the B-21, the next generation long-range strategic bomber that will soon make its home at South Dakota's own Ellsworth Air Force Base.
The Senate version of the NDAA currently involves $3.4 billion for procurement of B-21 aircraft. It also includes $378 million to support B-21s at Ellsworth. Senator Thune also highlighted other investments in the bill, including spending on America's Marine Fleet, Golden Dome missile defense system, munition supply, and a nearly 4% pay raise to service members. The House will have its own military spending plan, and the two chambers will ultimately work together on a final plan to deliver to President Trump.